It really works. It really works. I honestly have dozens, 30, 40 examples from this year alone where people reached out to me and they said something along the lines of, wow, this really spoke to me. Oh, this, you're in my head. I had someone comment on a post saying, are you bugging my house?
Hi, Rob. Welcome to the show. So happy to have you.
Thanks so much, Brian. I appreciate you having me on.
So, for those who don't know, would you introduce yourself? What do you do? Who are you?
My name's Robb Gilbear. I am a coach that helps new coaches and aspiring coaches launch and scale their businesses. I help people that have got their coaching certificate turn their certificate into a real business, and those who don't have a certificate but have some kind of experience and have this drive to want to do something that revolves around helping other people, again, create a real business around it. So that's the high level answer.
Your energy and what you do is amazing. We worked briefly together, and you were always the one who laugh and smile was so infectious. That's what I remember about you, and so welcoming and warm. So maybe tell us a bit about your career in terms of like that, um, the ups and downs and sort of how you got started being this coach of coaches.
All right. So the role you're talking about, where we work together, I was leading a team. The people experience team, where the whole
Mhm.
point and purpose of the team was to ensure that employees felt empowered, felt supported, felt listened to, were having fun, were engaged. So, what were the things that need to happen to ensure that employees were having an incredible experience? And it's a part of my journey, and my journey really is one of entrepreneurship and then HR roles. And I left high school. I didn't go to university. I actually started a business. I started a record label and did that for a while until some responsibilities of the world came crushing down. I sought out a quote unquote real job that was in HR.
Mhm.
And then I bounced back and forth between entrepreneurship, running or co-owning companies and HR roles. And then the last 5 years where I was in a role, employed by someone else, they were in more progressive organizations where it really was people and culture, people empowerment, people were the actual focus versus, the label human resources. I hate it because it insinuates that humans are resources to be sucked and siphoned dry. And the consistent through it all is just my curiosity around what makes businesses thrive regardless of market conditions, and what makes people more happy, more connected, more inspired, and more impactful. And when done properly, people and culture, HR really is that intersection of people and business. So that served me pretty well when I was playing those roles. But uh, I the entrepreneurial bug in me has been there for a while, and really the rebellious want to do it on my own. I want to do it better, or instead of trying to help someone else build their dream, I need to be building my dream. So ultimately, that's what's won over. And yeah, we mentioned before we started recording that I'm having the best year of my life. So I'm happy that I've made this switch.
No, I absolutely want to kind of give you another huge kudos because I've worked in agencies my entire life, and that stint at that particular one with you as the head of people culture was the most fun I've had. The most I feel uh, re- I felt like I mattered in the company, and that's having fun but working hard, and my opinions and contributions to the agency and the company mattered, and I felt you obviously seem to have like a huge role in that, and thank you for that experience.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I learned a lot there. It was fun, and that's that's the joy of it. Is it's reciprocal, right? Like you give and you get back, and you help people feel empowered and important, and like they're learning and they have a say, and it all comes back. So thank you.
And there's so many things to unpack from your experience growing up and your journey of entrepreneurship. I feel like I've also in similar boats. I've been kind of a hustler, one would say, my entire life. I remember working at a very young age. Cash jobs, don't tell the CRA, to get some allowance money, and things like that. And I remember I collected, like I'm a huge fanatic with collecting things. I remember when I was younger, it was like Pokemon cards, and I tried to make a business out of collecting and this reselling cards. I know you have a similar story, and I want to tell the audience about this, but I think you probably would tell it a lot better than me. So tell us this story about you reselling Halloween candy as a kid, and what lessons did you learn from that experience?
Um, Love it. Thank you. Yes, grade school, grade 3, grade 4, and I wanted to make some money and I wanted to make some pocket money. I had some friends that were older than me that had paper routes and stuff, and I eventually did get a paper route after this, but I wasn't allowed to get a paper route yet. So I was trying to think of what are ways that I can make money, and I realized that there was this influx of candy, of chocolate, of chips, of these things that everyone coveted around Halloween. But then within a few weeks, the supply went dry and people were trying to find ways to get sweets. So I had the idea that
Hmm.
if I saved all my best candy and then I brought them to school 3 weeks, a month after Halloween, that I could sell them and I could trade them. So that's the main part of the story. And it was interesting for me because maybe one of the biggest things I learned from it is the first time I brought stuff to school, I just had stuff in my backpack, I had stuff in my pockets, and I was, showing it to people. A
Hmm.
couple people are interested, I was able to sell a couple pieces, trade a couple pieces, but something was off. And I went home and I thought, like, well, how can I make it better? And I thought, well, in stores, everything's set up nice and there's, like a nice pack, nice light. And I did, obviously at that age, I had no idea what the word merchandising meant, but I got a little suitcase. I had this little suitcase, which was
Wow.
meant for cassette tapes, and it had plastic
Hmm.
slots for cassette tapes, and it was one big thing. And I ripped that out, and then I just had this
Hmm.
little like suitcase, and then I put the pieces in there, and then I had this little suitcase that I brought to school. I was able to open up, and I was offering my wares, and offering it that way. I got rid of everything. I sold everything. I traded for some marbles I wanted. I got a bunch of money, and I came home. I remember the satisfying feeling of walking home with an empty suitcase and the jingle of the change in my pockets. So yeah,
Wow.
the how things are presented is definitely one of the lessons I took from that, and learned a little bit about self-control. So I also had to hold back on consuming my own candy if I wanted the opportunity to get to resell them.
I literally just wrote down delayed gratification and its relationship with entrepreneurship. And this itself could be a whole topic. But I just want to like touch upon this a bit. And it's so amazing that at such a young age that you maybe not like formally known about this concept, but you already kind of touched or understood the value of delayed gratification. And I think that that's the entrepreneurship journey that a lot of people take and they embark on. Is they, like you said, they realize instead of building someone else's business, right? I'm gonna grind it out. I'm gonna put in the effort to build my own business now. So that's further down the road, I'm able to realize, um, a dream.
It's making me think about entrepreneurship and about the opportunities that are available right now, and as far as putting yourself out there.
I think our first connection this year was when you did your rebrand and you're launching your website. And huge kudos. It looks amazing. I love the colors um, and it really it really I feel like is an extension of your personality and how you are. So congratulations on that.
It's never been easier to connect with people. It's never been easier to build relationships. It's never been easier to find your people who would want to work with you. But you have to be willing to kind of put yourself out there. And there's a fear. There's a lot of people that are afraid of you're starting a podcast. That means what if people judge your podcast? What if you say something wrong? You're learning something new. It is the same as starting a blog, is the same as posting videos online, is the same as posting on any social media channel. It's never been easier, but it doesn't diminish the fear and the worries that kind of go with it. But the reality is someone's going to decide whether they want to work with you or not, based on
Mhm.
some stuff is really hard to kind of pinpoint. Is that you remind them of someone in high school who they had a crush on, or you remind them of their uncle who always makes fun of them. Like there's just something that you just have no control
Mhm.
over. So you can either hide, play small, not do the podcast, not do the blog, not post
Mhm.
online, not post videos, not. And then for people to decide whether they want to work with you means they have to go through a whole dog and pony show. They have to reach out and email and then a couple phone calls. And it's not until this later stage in the game that they can possibly get to know you. Versus you talking about thank you, like you're saying nice things about my website. It feels like it exudes my personality. Yeah, just put it out, put it out,
Mhm.
put it out there for the world. And that's what you're doing with this podcast. And then the people who align with you, the people who connect with you, people think like, oh, I like the way this person thinks. I like what they're doing. I like what they're about. I like their purpose. And then obviously they need to believe that you can help them solve their problem.
Mhm.
Uh, but it's just, you can scale connections. You can scale building authentic connections and to get known so much quicker and easier if you're willing to put yourself out there. Um,
Absolutely. I feel like making connections nowadays has has been for some made difficult, but also in terms of like the technological advancements that we or like the tech landscape that we're in, it's been it's been so much easier. And you touched upon a bit about risk. You touched a bit about being authentic. And I know that you were interviewed by it was entrepreneur.com, right? Or is it Inc?
yeah,
Um,
entrepreneur, yeah, both this year. And it's funny, the entrepreneur feature led to a phone call with someone who featured me in Forbes later.
yes, yes. And I know these two interviews uh, you had with these two publications, one of them's about making authentic connections. So you are an expert. Now I feel like in this, with the current climate and sort of the intersection of technology as well, um, how does one go from zero to one, and how does how would you recommend people to make that authentic connection, um, given that it's more difficult now with the current climate to meet face to face? I've heard a lot of stories about, for example, financial advisors and all these people who used to attend so many networking events now have to figure out a different way to and navigate something different to make these connections. So being the expert as you are, what would you say to that? How would you recommend people in this time, as they're starting out?
So first, I just want to challenge a couple notions there, and that the
Hmm.
people who used to rely only on face to face and who are struggling this year, it's just that they were late to the game. They've ignored something which has been here for several years, and they're being forced to adapt because
I
it's
agree.
never been easier to connect. I've got calls with people in 3 different countries today. That's not an atypical, like a, not like every day, but I've got a couple of those a week. That's normal
Hmm.
because of what's available. So that's the first thing. The other piece I want to talk about before I directly answer the question is um, congruency and authenticity, and how those two things really tie together. And people often assume that I've got this like unwavering confidence. I'm this like super outgoing,
Hmm.
extrovert, confident person. Um, However, a big part of that is just alignment between what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling and what I'm putting out in the world. Part one is just liking who I am. Like before we started the call, you were sharing with me that you've done introspection, you've done some work, you've been working on your own mindset, right? Like, so you've got to do your own housekeeping so that you at least like yourself. You actually like who you
Hmm.
are. The other piece is congruence between what I'm saying and what I'm thinking. Is that aligned with what I'm putting out in the world? Because we've all been in situations, you meet someone and like, all right, they seem nice. They're saying the right things. Something seems off. And the something seems off is that in my opinion, there is a disconnect between what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and what they're putting out in the world. And whether that's in a one-on-one conversation or whether that is being shared online. Because what you do if you show up and just like the word authentic, right? That's alignment. It's just sharing what you're really thinking. There can be no gotcha. Because the challenge people fall into is like, oh, you mentioned financial advisors, people expect them to be this way, they have to act this way, and they build up persona. And then they think that they have to act like that persona. Well, what if that's not who they are? Then they're constantly in this weird misalignment where it's hard to feel authentic, let alone be authentic. So that's huge. So liking yourself and actually being who you are and not pretending, that cuts through all the chase. And then the difference is, okay, so we used to do in person. Great, there's online. So what is it about when you're meeting someone in person? It's about being a good listener, trying to understand what their challenges are, trying to find a way to make a connection with them. The same thing applies. The difference is if I post something on LinkedIn and it gets seen by 4,000 people, sometimes people fall in the trap and think like, oh, it's being seen by 4,000 people. What if 4,000 people need to hear blah, 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 blah. No, it's being consumed one person at a time, one individual at a time. It is one conversation at a time. So you got to get really clear on who your target is, who are your dream clients, and then you think about, hey, what are they thinking about? What are they worried about? What are their fears? What do them and I have in common? What would be a potential trigger point for them to want to hire a financial advisor? And then you gear all your content checking those boxes, and you're having one-on-one conversations with hundreds, if not thousands of people at once.
Rob, I feel like you're speaking my romantic language as a marketer. You're, I 100% agree, and I feel like I started this podcast with a laser focus of just helping people who were in my shoes, or who I'm still trying to figure this out as well, of trying to be an entrepreneur. And there's two things I want to follow up with what you just said, and I feel like congruence, authenticity, they definitely go hand in hand. And I feel like a lot of the seemingly inauthentic or something that feels off, like you said, like it's what I call like the consumer's BS radar, and it's higher and more in tune than ever. And I feel like, me personally, and this is like it's kind of, it may be incorrect, who knows. I feel like a lot of people are quote unquote inauthentic or incongruent with it. It's because they took that job, right? And I feel like this is something that entrepreneurs that make that entrepreneurial leap, is that a lot what they're doing from their 9 to 5 or their full-time job wasn't 100% aligned with what they do. How do they get to become 100% aligned with what you want? Start your own thing. That's the easiest way to be 100% aligned. And this is a part of like how like in the past few months I've started to like really narrow down like, whom do I want to help. Yes, I do want to make money, but at the end of the day, I genuinely want to help, because I see people that are like my dad, who was an entrepreneur his entire life, like started from the age of 13. My uncle, who used to own a restaurant on Bloor Street, growing up with all these entrepreneurs, and well, they were immigrants. I've wanted to help them, but when I was a kid, I couldn't. Now every person I come across and I interact with, I feel like I see a bit of my dad, or I see a bit of my uncle and aunts in them. And I was like, you know what? If you only did this one thing, it would help you. And then inject my sort of like expertise in marketing and advertising to help them along the way. And second to that, what you lastly talked about is like 100%. Like if you figure out, carve out that audience that you want to target and speak directly to them. And this is something I tell everyone I come across is don't try to talk to everyone, because the message becomes so much more difficult to understand when you're trying to talk to everyone. I always advocate figuring out that one person. It could be Sally, it could be Bob, it could be David, it could be Suzanne. These people are your ideal customers. And if you talk to that one particular person, that message is simpler to understand, and then everybody can understand. And then now you don't have to convince Danny to hire you. Susan's gonna come to you and it's like, hey, this person I want to work with.
It really works. It really works. I honestly have dozens, 30, 40 examples from this year alone where people reached out to me and they said something along the lines of, wow, this really spoke to me. Oh, this, you're in my head. I had someone comment on a post saying, are you bugging my house? I've had multiple people who respond to me and use the exact words that I put in a post, in a video, in a message, because to them it felt like they were being seen and heard as an individual. And the challenge that a lot of people fall into this, like trying to serve everyone you're talking about, is this fear of, well, I want to make money. And if I want to make money, I need to serve a lot of people. So if I want to serve a lot of people, I can't be too specific because then I'm going to ignore people. Yeah, that made
Mm-hmm.
sense if we were talking 30 years ago and you could only really service the people in your postal code or zip code. That's not the case anymore. We have the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of trying to appeal to everyone in your city or town, appeal
Mm-hmm.
really personally at a deep level. And I don't like demographics matter not so much, but psychographics. Like, what are they thinking? What are they
Mm-hmm.
fearing? What are their dreams? Why do they want to fix the problem you could potentially help them with? Get into
Mm-hmm.
that stuff and you'll find your people, they'll find you.
100%. And this is a lot of fears that entrepreneurs have, is that exact same mindset. It's like, oh, um, I need to pay the bills, and now, and of course, like I tell my wife this almost every day is as she's starting her entrepreneurial journey as well. Uh, you know, do something that's like that is there's some like that you like, because chances are there are people like you out there in the 7 billion population. And the scenario then is not just trying to find these people, because they're going to be attracted because of they have the similar interests, or like you said, same psychographic, or they're trying to solve that same problem. Uh, the next issue is then how do you make it sustainable for yourself, so you can make a living out of servicing that group of people, because there will always be a market for everything. If there's one thing I learned in marketing all these years, is that if you can sell a pet rock, you can sell basically anything.
So I would agree with that. If you can sell a pet rock, you can sell anything, because the same things are transferable. And I think actually that's something
Mm-hmm.
else a lot of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs struggle with, is a fear around sales, or unknowing around sales, or an assumption that sales have to be sleazy or slimy or pressure, which is not the case whatsoever. And the better approach is back to the thread of this conversation around authenticity, around connection, around understanding them. And sorry, were you asking me then, how do you make it sustainable? Is that what you're asking? Like, how do you make the business sustainable? Is that a question you're asking?
Exactly. I think the next step is once people make that connection, or even start to form those connections.
Mhm.
Or I know, the namesake of your company, Growth Habits. Um, what was that like, starting Growth Habits? What is Growth Habit?
All right. So Growth Habit is the name of my company, and I was trying to think about what are the most important things that have got me to where I am and would have really helped me make this leap. And it was on the focus around my own growth, my own development, my own learning, and helping other people with their own growth, their own development, their own learning. That was one component. And the other piece is habit. And I have plenty of experience where I failed at stuff. I had a aspirational music project 4 years ago now, where I had a big launch and I was doing this whole thing and I started achieving some of the goals, and then it fell flat. And in part, it was due to me not having the consistent habits in place to be able to execute on it over a period of time. 7 years ago, I had a blog called Celebrate Mondays, which I only posted on, I don't know, how many posts did I get up? 10? Not enough. And I gave up on it early, and I didn't have the habit of writing. And this time around, to really successfully leave my job, replace my six-figure salary, and to succeed the way I've been succeeding, it's this full embodiment and belief that it is won or lost in the little moments. It's the little things that you do consistently on a daily basis or don't that will lead to your success. And so just knowing that it is a routine, habitual approach. So that's where the name came from. And I knew that it's funny because when I came up with that name, I had a totally different niche. I had a totally different group in mind. I was thinking of servicing. I've fully changed my niche 3 times in the last 18 months, but it is still a company name that serves me because it goes down to the core, which is like the growth, the learning, the development, and then also the importance of habit to help you achieve your big goals.
I couldn't agree more. And I think a part of my success, and I'm probably going to make a video about this sometime in the future, or in the past, depending on how this editing happens. Um, so if you're watching, watch that other video or stay tuned to the new video. Don't know which one yet. I myself am a creature of habit, and invariably I wake up at 6 a.m. To to the chagrin of my wife, who is not a morning person. 6 a.m. Also kind of sometimes not good for my health because regardless of how late I sleep, I always wake up at 6. I don't know why. And I always take a cold shower. And I think a part of my success the past few months is that this habit, something I developed newly for this year, is taking this cold shower. There will be days where like I don't want to take a cold shower, especially now in winter. But it's the ability to push through not wanting to do something and still doing it because of that habit. And I feel it's that type of mindset, that like you said, the little things, the tiny things that make up your journey is the ones that matter. And for me, it's the cold shower. You know, I draw the same parallels to, okay, I'm an introvert, so I don't like to reach out and talk to people, but I always set aside time every week to make sure I connect with people and follow up with people, and something I've never done growing up, because being an introvert, I have friends that I don't talk to for years, and then we pick up immediately once I do reach out to them. And shout out to Hideaki, who moved to Japan years ago. We haven't kept in touch regularly, but we're still good friends, and that's the type of person I am. But I'm kind of rewriting that aspect of me by developing new habits. And are there people that you've helped that are in similar shoes? Like, can you tell us some stories about maybe your own personal habits development, or some of the people that you've worked with or helped?
Yes. So I'll talk a bit about me, and then maybe I'll share something about someone else. One of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing now is because of my morning routine and me sharing it. So I realized that I needed to change what I was doing in the small moments to have bigger success. I started doing a morning routine. Like you, it starts with a cold shower. There's a cold shower, stretches and exercises, meditation, and then journaling. And there's a reason for all of those. And I started sharing it. I started posting about it on Instagram. And then I had people asking me. I had people reaching out being like, hey, can you teach me how to do this? Can you help me with this? Can you mentor me in that? And it helped me acquire some clients. And then it helped me give me confidence to make the leap that I'm making now. And you talked earlier about, doing it even the mornings that you don't feel like it. It makes me think, I think it's a Stephen King quote where he's talking about writing, and he says, inspiration is for amateurs, and that the professional just writes every day. And that's it. Like, there's definitely mornings right now where it's cold out. It's dark, it's cold. I don't have a cold shower. And so, and there's still that hesitation, but I always feel so good afterwards. I always feel so awake afterwards. So it does make a huge difference. And yeah, I've worked with dozens and dozens. Gosh, I should really tally how many people I've worked with this year. And every single person who has embraced a habits first or routines first, doing the small things, I've seen them grow. I've seen them succeed. I've seen them change the way they perceive themselves, see their business grow. Um, and actually, there's something else too. We're talking about making the leap from being an employee to an entrepreneur. Is when you're an employee, everything's dictated to you, right? You're like, you got to show up at this time, you got to log in at this time, you're going to be at your desk or you're going to be online. Da, 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 da. If you don't do it, there's some repercussions. Like the framework is given to you. But if you're going to make that leap and you've always been an employee and all of a sudden you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to create your own framework. And it really does start. So, like, if you are dedicated that every morning you're going to get up and these three things that are non negotiable that you do no matter what, and you have some discipline around those, then you can have the freedom later. You get the freedom to choose who you want to work with, choose the kind of work you do, and to really steer your own vessel versus being a numbered employee somewhere.
Yeah, and the I'm personally starting to journal a bit more inconsistent than I'd like. But it's one of those things. You just got to do it and form that habit over time. Um, and I 100% agree in terms of like it's the small things that impact your success and your future outcomes. Um, and I had the utmost admiration for you for being able to keep that up because I know for myself it was difficult. Uh, are there any stories that you can like particular stories that you can share about your clients or the people that you've helped? Um, how were you able to help them? Like, what's one key that would help them to maybe develop a habit or break an old existing habit?
Environment plays probably the biggest role when it comes to creating a new habit. And with our kids, we were realizing they were in the habit for a while of not eating the most nutritious snacks after school. And for us, it was just a change of putting out a trail mix bowl on the breakfast bar in a high traffic area and making sure that the fruit bowl beside it was always packed with yummy looking fruit and like night and day difference. So in talking with my clients, it's always the same thing too. Like if your goal is to get up in the next day and to do a run, then when you have that thought the night before, design your environment to do it. If you want to, if you're someone who used to play a lot of uh, piano or keyboard, but you've got, I don't know, like your old sweater and stuff, or the keyboard's in a closet, like get it out, make it a part of your environment. It's the same thing. I had a client who wanted to run more and use their treadmill more. And like, okay, well, where is it? Okay, it's in my bedroom. Where in the bedroom? Well, it's kind of in the corner. Well, what's going on with it? Well, it's kind of where the in-between clothes go. So take the not dirty, not clothes off of the treadmill, pull it out a little bit more in the open so that it is really something that you're facing when you get out of bed in the morning. And then night and day difference. They started using the treadmill on a regular basis. So it the environment plays a really big role with creating new habits or breaking old ones. I have another client who is trying to kick weed and they're smoking too much weed and they didn't like it and they're not, all against it and want to abstain altogether. But then it's just a matter of like putting it out of sight, putting it on top of a cupboard, putting it somewhere where you have to get a key to get it. Like you can still get it if you want it, but it would mean getting a step stool, getting a key. So you're putting friction between you and the thing. So it's the opposite way of designing an environment, designing a good way. Make it fun, make it rewarding. If it's something you want to do, make it rewarding. When I think of when I was in the habit of doing yoga most regularly, like 3 times in my life, I've gone to a yoga class alone. Every other time I went with a friend. Every time. And there was different parts of my life where it was like this friend I was going with for a while, it was my partner or whatever, but just that it made it enjoyable. It made it social. And the other thing is that it made it kind of sticky because I wouldn't want to let them down. Right. So there's the enjoyment of it becoming like a social thing, someone who I enjoy seeing or whatever, we were doing it together, but also it creates pressure and expectation because you're not going to let someone else down. And then the last thing is um, make it rewarding. Like make it some kind of reward, and whether that's you can do like a tracker. And it's so stupid. Like when I talked before my morning routine, I had a track on the wall and I was checking boxes. you'd think I was a kid in like kindergarten. It was so fun to check the boxes, like I was getting a sticker or something. But it is a mini reward, and it could be that. It could be, putting on a song that you enjoy. It could be, just honestly like a pumping your fist and going like, hell yeah. It could be really small. It doesn't take much, but if you make it rewarding as well, these are some of the main things that can help you make a habit stick, or help you create a new habit. And the the other piece too, like I talked about, like going with a friend, is one of the best ways if you want to create a new habit is just join a team, join a culture, join a company, join a group, join a mastermind where that the behavior you want to create is the norm already. Again, it goes back to the adage that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. So if there's, if you, we were talking earlier about working in an agency, well, there's certain things in an agency, like the drinking and the partying aspect of being an agency. Well, if you're looking to not drink as much, well, I wouldn't recommend getting a job in an agency. Where are the places you could work? Maybe you do volunteer at the yoga studio, maybe you do, but just know that the culture of the teams, of the people, of the groups, of the tribes you hang out with absolutely do affect the behaviors that you will adopt.
Oh yeah, and like going back to your point, there's so many studies out there, psychological, biochemical. Like if you associate something with a dopamine hits, like it's so you're wired to continue doing that. That's just how it is. And my personal success sometimes is linked to me just putting it out there, like similar to the concept of going with a friend. I tell people it's like, okay, this is my goal, or um, I I put it so that I'm backed to a corner that I have to do it, otherwise, like, oh, I'm gonna let my friends down, or I like now they know what my goal is. I need to at least come close to it. So what I do to kind of get myself into new habits or reach a certain goal is I just put it out there. I tell as many people as possible. So even before I started this podcast, I was like, okay, guys, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to talk about the A, B, and C, and then there will be people who are like, hey, I thought you were doing a podcast. Like, okay, yeah, I guess now I got to do it. And similar, like we touched upon a few of these. Like going 0 to 1 is always the hardest, and making that connection. But it's, like you said, technology has made it so much easier, so much so that if you're authentic and congruent with what you put out there, people are going to come to you because they're just going to find you. And then now repeating that process of 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, that's the habit aspect. And I feel like your company, what you do is such a huge aspect in helping people grow. And huge kudos to you and all the people that you're working with. Um, Thank you so much for sharing your stories. And now I'm going to start a habit of asking my guests this one particular question. Um, you've reached this point in your life, in your career. Um, as much as we reflect and want to change, we can't. But what's one thing that's knowing what you know now? What's one piece of advice you would tell, maybe the version of you that you're just starting off this entrepreneur journey? What's that one piece of advice that would have helped you back then that you know now?
You don't have to have it all figured out to start, but you need to be consistent in your efforts. And that goes back to the habits piece. And a lot of people, I've experienced it personally, and the doubt and the questioning and, the waiting until all the ducks are lined up, and just thinking like waiting for the perfect time. There is no perfect time. There really is no perfect time. And any time effort wasted in that is lost learning versus just taking the leap, but being consistent in effort. Effort and belief. Belief is really important. Having this belief that you can figure out, that you can learn, that you can grow, and then just getting up every day. You're going to take the cold shower no matter what. You're going to reach out to and make connections with people. You're going to start conversations every week, even if you do label yourself as an introvert, because you know that that's important for the growth of your business and the maintenance of your business. So yeah, those would be the things I would say to myself.
That was deeply profound, and I feel like I have to re-listen to that a few times to unpack more of its meanings. Um, I I'm so happy that you took the time to chat with me today. Thank you so much, and I feel a lot of the listeners, the viewers out there are going to be helped immensely by what you've shared. Uh, so thank you so much, Rob.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was very easy to speak with you, and I look forward to further conversations.
Absolutely. I think in a fun topic that we can probably both talk nonstop about is risk and self-doubt. And I think that
Yeah.
could be a front runner for our next topic. So we'll see.
Yes, absolutely. It's a topic that I am passionate about, and definitely something that I've helped a lot of people with. So I think we should earmark that for the the preferred potential topic for the next chat.
Awesome. We'll connect again.
All right.
Thank you so much, Rob.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
Hi, Brian here. I really enjoyed my conversation with Rob today, and his message of just putting yourself out there really resonated with me. And that's part of the reason why I started this YouTube channel, just putting it out there. If you think this message could help someone you know, I'd really appreciate it if you share this video with them. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to like and comment below what aspect of the video that you enjoyed the most. Liking and commenting will help me grow this channel and get this content out to more people that would benefit from it. I'm definitely going to have Rob back, so be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that YouTube will let you know when Rob's next episode will come out. Most likely, we're going to be talking about self-doubt and fear when it comes to starting your own business or starting your entrepreneurial journey. So, once again, thank you.